Tech time. What's up, everyone? Back at you again with another video, and you're here because you want to know how to start a YouTube channel. Like, a lot of you might not know what to use, the equipment to use. I'm gonna go over the stuff that I use, and I'm not a pro, but I like to consider myself somewhat of a pro. So that means I know a little something. But without further ado, let's get this thing started. Okay, so the biggest question in the room is, what do I use to film with? Well, I'm pretty sure most of you have heard the term, the best camera you have is the one that you always carry. And by me saying that, what does most people carry? Their cell phones. Most people got iPhones, and personally, I feel like, when it comes to YouTube videos, if you're going to use a phone, the iPhone is the phone to use. But there's a lot of great Android phones with great cameras as well. It's just my number one pick would be iPhone when it comes to trying to film a YouTube video. But we're going to get into that in a little bit. So we go over what I use. Now, I've been using the same camera for over a year now, the Canon M50. Before that, I was using a little handy cam Sony, which sometimes I do use when I'm doing top-down shots of unboxings. I try not to, because I'm really big on the quality of things, and I mean it's good to get you by, but like nothing compares to that I have in here compares to my Canon M50. So we're gonna go over. I'm gonna show you different clips from my camera to the phone to even a Sony handy cam, because a lot of people might not have a lot of money to spend, and all this stuff I'm going over is stuff that I accumulated over time. I didn't obviously get this at one time, so a lot of stuff I'm gonna show you, you're just gonna need the basics starting off. So let's do it. Okay, so when I shoot my videos, I shoot in 1080 30 frames per second most of the time. Special occasions I might shoot in like 4K 60, but that's typically off the iPhone or the Android phone, because my camera can't shoot 4K 60. So 30 frames per second is what I use. Sometimes I might do 1080 60 frames per second. And the way you can tell the difference between those is you can see, like, when you go to a 1080p 60 frames per second video and on YouTube, you click on it, you can see how smooth it is. Everything just looks more smoother than what 30 frames per second is. Now, when shooting in 4K, let's just say 4K 30, 4K 60, or even 1080p 60 over 1080p 30, the file size is going to be bigger. So one main reason why I do shoot it in 1080p 30 is because the file size is smaller, which bringing it over to the computer is still a big file, still a big file when you put it all together. So that's less storage being eaten up on my memory card by me shooting at 30 frames per second. And I just think majority of people like 60 frames per second. It's kind of weird. They like 60 frames per second, but I don't think a lot of people like seeing 60 FPS all the time, and so in film, they use 24 frames per second. So me keeping it at 30, I just think it just looks somewhat more natural, but time calls for the special place when to use 60 FPS. So sometimes you might see, I probably even put a link to my video, or put it right here or something, of you seeing like this compared to the 60 FPS. That's the Canon M50. I'm gonna switch over to the iPhone, and for the iPhone, I'm gonna do 4K 30, so it can kind of make up for it, because cell phones, they use small sensors, and it's just, I feel like still my iPhone can't compete with my Canon M50 when it comes to like video and just like the shadow depth of field and all this and that. I just, it's just, a phone just can't compete with it yet, which is why I prefer to use a DSLR for making YouTube videos or movies. Okay, so this is the iPhone 11 Pro at 4K 30 frames per second. And I know a lot of you probably right now can notice that, one, it's a lot brighter, and I'm gonna explain that why. But two, the quality doesn't still look as good as the Canon M50, or maybe it might. It might even look better to the Canon M50 to you, but I just know that my Canon produces better video. And I don't have my mic hooked up to the iPhone 11 Pro, and that's one thing I can say about the iPhones. They have pretty good mics. So if you didn't have a mic, you can just pull out your phone and just start recording. But personally, I still would use an external mic, but we're gonna get to that in a little bit. Let's go over to the Sony Handycam. I think it's like $200. Let's check that out. Okay, so this is my Sony Handycam CX405. Now at the time, I think I bought it for like $200. I'm pretty sure it's still $200. on Best Buy, and I mean, it got me by. It was pretty decent. My first ever upload though was my iPhone 6s, and I shot that at 60 frames per second because, like I said, I didn't know, you know what I'm saying? I just heard people say 60 FPS, you know, very smooth and good quality. So I'm thinking you're supposed to shoot at 60 FPS. So I don't know. I think I just like the quality of the iPhone a little bit better. But this thing got me back a couple of times. I didn't use it too often, but it's a pretty good little camera. $200, but I think for $200 you can find a good DSLR off eBay. But anyway, I'm going to show you the video quality coming from this. Okay, so this is the video quality coming from the Sony CX-405. Now, it's pretty decent. It might just look kind of yucky, and that's because I'm shooting in automatic. So I shot this in automatic, and I shot the iPhone 11 Pro in automatic. And I did that because a lot of people, you're just going to pull out your camera and you're just going to start shooting. You're not going to think about the manual settings. Maybe down the road, you're probably going to wonder, like, how can I get consistent, great looking video? Now, the Canon M50, the whole time I shot that in manual mode because it really didn't dawn on me to right now to you know, shoot that in automatic. But I can show you how that looks in automatic. But so right now this is automatic, and I'm gonna show you probably a little bit how to tweak it, you know, so you can get a better, cleaner image quality. And I should also know that this Sony does not have a headphone jack, so this is the audio that you're going to be stuck with, which is something to think about as well. Another cool thing I should actually mention about this camera is it has a telephoto lens, and that means I can zoom in pretty far. Now, it's a good thing I did it this way because this is a DSLR, this is a smartphone, and the Sony CX-405 is a camcorder. So those are like the main three that you'll be deciding on, whether you use a DSLR, a smartphone, or a camcorder. Now, personally, I feel like for YouTube videos or movies, you should use a DSLR. Just the quality and, you know, shallow depth of field that you get from it is superb. But different things call for different, you know, measures. So if I zoom in right now with this telephoto lens, you can see how far I can get with the CX-405. You can see that amount of detail is pretty insane. And this is coming from this small little camera. So that's a really cool feature. And like I said, I haven't used this Sony Handycam that much because, yeah, I just wanted better quality. Okay, so remember what I was talking about, how bright the iPhone's camera was and how bright the Sony CX-405 was? Well, that's because of the aperture. Now, my Canon M50 is a f3.5 to f6.3. with image stabilization. And before I get to the aperture, what image stabilization is, basically it prevents, you know, the camera from having so much shake and movement, you know, so that's a good thing. You want something with image stabilization in it. That way, if you're using handheld, it won't be so shaky, to sum it up. Now, the iPhone uses a f1.8 aperture, and the Sony CX-405 uses a f1.8 to 1.9. So the iPhone's regular main sensor is a f1.8, the ultra wide is a f2.4, and the telephoto is a f2.0. Had to write that down in notes because that's a lot to remember. So by me saying that, the iPhone and the Sony let in a ton of more light than my camera, which is a good thing and bad thing. I'm gonna call it a bad thing, but it's just a good thing. But it's a bad thing when you're shooting automatic and you don't know how to, you know, do the settings. Now the iPhone should be able to clear that up for you. So because of this, you know, it's a smartphone, it should be able to adjust and fix that for you when you're shooting a video. So about 90% of the time you should have 95% of the time you should have clean video without having to go to manual. But when you learn manual, you will understand, like, you know, having that control over your video, things just work out better. So that's one thing I want to go over. And so yeah, that's basically what aperture is. Aperture is how much light the camera sensor lets in. So the bigger the number, the smaller the hole is to let in light. The smaller the number, the bigger the hole is to let in light. So that's, you know, something to consider when thinking about aperture. So big number, small aperture, less light. Small number, big aperture, more light. Okay, so there's two more factors I want to consider shooting in manual, and that's the ISO and a shutter speed. Now, for me, I typically because of the way I got my light set up, I don't go over 500. The more you put for the higher ISO, the more noise is going to be in images. Now, I did one time shoot at a high ISO, I think it was like 2000 or something like that. And it actually turned out pretty decent because I just didn't feel like setting up the lights downstairs and, you know, all this and that to film the little video I did. And I probably put that right there so you can see. It actually turned out pretty decent. So shooting at a higher ISO, depending on what camera you use, might turn out well, but typically you want to shoot at a low ISO. Now, what I got on this video right now is I got it at 320. So you can see if I go to the left, bringing it all the way down to 100, you can see how dark it is. Bring it all the way up. Right now, this is at 1250. That's really, really bright. So that's called overexposing. You don't want that. So I'm gonna bring that back down to 320. And right here, this is 500. So 500 is not bad, but you can see it's a little overexposed, so it's bright. Some people might like that, but we're gonna bring this back down to 320. I typically want it to be a nice balance so you can see how nice this looks. Okay, now the shutter speed. The shutter speed is basically supposed to be double of what your frame rate is. So right now I'm at 1/60, and that's because I'm shooting at 60 frames per, that's because I'm shooting at 30 frames per second. So if I put this over 80, you can see it's starting to get a little dark. And also when shooting at a higher shutter speed, that means the motion blur is a lot less. So now you can see my hands moving kind of crazy. So that's really dark, but you can see, look at that. The shutter speed is now moving weird because there's a lot less motion blur now. So bring that back down. I'm gonna show you below 60. So going below 60, now it's at 1/50. Now you can see it slowed down. It also brightened the image, but see, that's the thing about shooting at a under. That's what happened. Now it gets really, really choppy. It's very bright, but it's really choppy, you know? So I never ever shoot under. I would either shoot a little bit over. So typically if I'm shooting at 30 frames per second, I'll probably go to 80 or 100, depending on how much light I'm getting coming in. So, you know, the sunlight is a factor as well, but we'll go over the light in a minute. So put that back at 60. And now it's a nice even balance. Actually, one of the most important things about, you know, making a video, and that is the lighting. Now, this right here is my softbox, and you can get them off Amazon. I got like a dual pair for like $60. So I'm gonna show you the inside of it and how, you know, long the light bulb looks. Now, remember I talked about the aperture. So zooming in, my camera can go up to 6.3, but I actually, on a manual setting, you can adjust the aperture to f22. So that's why I got it on right now. So that's the highest I can adjust it to. And you can see now, you can start to see the light bulb a little bit better. So I got that. And then over here, I have to adjust that. Open that up some more. Okay. So you see I adjust the aperture. Now over here, I got just a regular light. I use daylight. I don't typically, sometimes you might see me use warm light, but majority of the time I use daylight just because, as I stated before, daylight just looks better to me. So utilizing this is kind of like the 3-point lighting, and I'll put a picture so you can see the 3-point lighting. But that, and then I turn on my nano leaves so that can give me some light from the back, because I will show you right now how it would look if you didn't have the proper light setups. Okay, so say if I didn't have this light box right here, how my video turned out. It'll look something like this. Very dark, can't see anything, right? So you can see, but you can see the nano leaves in the back. Okay, so let's turn this back on. And you just see instantly, like magic. So turn off the nano leaves. And the nano leaves, they make a huge difference, but it does make a little bit of difference. And plus it just looks cool in the back. Turn that back on. Now, I'm gonna turn off just a regular lamp I got over here. And now you can see it's a lot darker. I don't have any light coming in from this way. So utilizing the 3-point light system can give you better quality images. And now back again. So this is how I normally do my little setup. Okay, so on iOS devices, if you want to shoot in manual mode, you can download the manual camera app, which actually looks just like this. So if I go in there, now it's locked, the camera sensor is locked at f1.8. Now, so if I want to make this image a little bit darker, because if I don't want so much light coming in, then what I can do is, remember what I said about the ISO. You want the ISO as low as possible. Now, by me having it that low, and as you see, it's still a lot of light coming in. By me having it that low, that means I'm getting a lot less noise and grain in my video, which is good. Shutter speed, you want it, since I'm filming at 4K 30, you want to put that at 1/60. So, and the same thing go for any other camera as well. Except with my Canon M50, I'm able to adjust the aperture because it's a basically 3 to f6. And the focus, you know, so with this camera app, the focus is, you know, just how if you want to adjust the focus, but you can tap this right here and it'll do it for you. Now, my biggest thing on filming is the white balance. So I typically like daylight. I don't like too warm of a white balance like that. So I typically like it in between, but more so on the cooler side, just because I feel like, you know, just white light just looks a lot better than yellow light. So for the white balance, you can adjust that to how you want, but typically for me, I use daylight. And yeah, that's pretty much basically the settings that you would use in manual mode. So make sure you're keeping the ISO as low as possible without making it, you know, too dark. And you got the shutter speed double than what your frame rate is. And you keeping the and your aperture, you paying attention to your aperture, because sometimes you got to close your aperture because it might be too bright. So that's one factor in. You might have your ISO all the way down, but you'll have to close the aperture on, let's say, your DSLR to make it, you know, to match up to a natural looking image. Okay, so now that I went over that, let's go over the type of microphones to use. So right now, this is actually the Rode Wireless Go with a lav mic, the Deity mic. So I'm gonna take off this and I'm gonna let you hear the camera mic, because you already heard the cameras from the mics from the iPhone and from the Sony. So I'm gonna take it off and let you hear it, and I'll revert it back to the automatic settings, because that's pretty much what the majority you're gonna be. And you're gonna notice the difference. And we're gonna go over all the type of different mics that I've used and mics that you can get, one that might be more up your alley. Okay, so this is the audio coming directly from the Canon M50. No microphone attached at all, just the regular audio. And I'm pretty sure you can notice a difference. So let me know what you think about that. And let's get on to the type of mics that I use. Okay, so this is the Deity Lav mic that I recently just got. This is about $50 on Amazon. I use that with the Rode Wireless Go, but I'm gonna get to that in a second. This right here is my Deity shotgun mic. So I'm just gonna say right now, this is actually the best shotgun mic that I own. So it starts at $99 and goes up to $199 for the Deity D3 Pro. This right here is the Techstar, and this is about $25 on Amazon, and it got me by. Like, this is actually like my first ever mic that I bought. This right here is the Mozo Tech, and this is like a $10 mic, and it actually sounds really good. I used it one time for one of my videos, so it actually sounds pretty good, especially for the price. And this right here is my little $30 Amazon Studio mic thing. I don't really know what to call it, but it's like, yeah, it's actually a pretty good mic for 30 bucks. Not bad at all. I actually use it in a couple of my videos. I sometimes use it in my gaming videos, and I believe this one actually sounds the loudest out of all of them. And then right here is my Rode Wireless Goes. Now, I've not used this by itself for a YouTube video. I tested it out, but I typically always plug in one of my lav mics. So I'm going to go ahead and show you right now how each one of these sound. So for this, to make this fair, I'm just going to plug these directly into the camera, the two lav mics, and then this, I'll just show you the audio by itself. Okay, so starting off with the Techstar, I actually left this it on automatic for the audio thing. Now, typically when I'm shooting, I do not use automatic. I got to adjust the gain to manual, because you don't want to peak. But I left this on automatic because a lot of you probably starting off just going to want to plug in your microphone and then that's it. So I had to make this a little bit fair. So this is the Techstar 598. Okay, so this is the Deity D3. This is the Deity D3. Like I said, this is the best shotgun mic that I own right now. And these are just some of the mics that I own. obviously there's a ton of mics out there, so you just do your research and your reviews on one, but the ones that I got sound pretty good. D80D3. Okay, so this is the D80 Lab mic. So I'm gonna plug directly into the camera, and like I said before, normally I have it plugged into my Rode Wireless Go mics just because it makes things a lot easier, you know, as far as mobility and other stuff. But yeah, so this is the D80 Lab mic. Okay, so I'm about to plug in the Mozotech. Now, with a lot of mics for the camera, they come with this little adapter. So if it's not working when you try to plug it in, it more likely need this TRS adapter. So plug that in, and then we'll plug it into the camera. Now this is the audio coming from the Mozotech, a $10 mic. I'm pretty sure you can tell that it sounds pretty good compared to the other mics that I have for just $10. Mozotech. This is the audio quality of the Rode Wireless Go. Now you can see it's hanging from my shirt right now, so it's not very ideal, but some people actually have it like this and like the mic quality. So let me know what you think in the comments below. And typically, like I said, I actually have this by my side and use a lavalier mic with this. So I don't never really have it like this. Okay, so last but not least on the list is my nice little Zil Sound microphone. So this is about a $30 mic on Amazon, and the cool thing about this mic is it actually has a little echo button, so you can actually adjust the slider, and now you should be able to hear my voice echo. So that's a pretty cool feature that you don't have to do in post. And yeah, so this is a pretty good mic, and yeah, let me know what you think. And I'll actually leave links to some of the stuff that I put in my videos down below. So if you do want to buy it offline, click on my link, buy from my link, because it actually will help out me and the channel. You don't have to, but if you are considering buying some of the stuff that I went over, buy it from my links. Okay, so one more thing I should note is, what video editing software should you use? Well, me starting off, I use Filmora 9 and Filmora 8, but now Filmora 9. And it's a great piece of software. You know, you can do different effects and stuff like that. It's just with Filmora, I'm not even gonna bash Filmora. It's just, I just noticed that exporting videos, or yeah, just exporting videos and the rendering playback is definitely need a lot of work. Just especially when you're going with 4K files. Like I remember I tried to do files with my phone that was going to do my phone comparisons, camera comparisons, and they were 4K files, and it was just going so slow. Now by me saying that, now since getting a Mac Mini, I've been using Final Cut Pro, and it's just like a night and day difference. Final Cut Pro is just amazing now. Now, when you got to talk into factors now, because Filmora is like $60 to own forever, and Final Cut Pro is like $299 to own forever, and they give you a free trial. So that's a cool thing about Final Cut Pro. And I mean, technically, I'm still using the free trial, so I just started using Final Cut Pro, but Filmora is a great starting software, and there's a bunch of other softwares out there that you just got to do a little bit more research, but I'm just telling you the ones that I use. Adobe Premiere, I tried using it one time, but I need to learn more about it, and there's tons of tutorials on that. So never really mess around with Adobe Premiere, but for Windows, I say either Filmora, Adobe Premiere, and there's other ones I can't really think of right now, but just do the research. Just go on Google and type in best video editing software 2020. And for Macs, obviously Final Cut Pro. Final Cut Pro is a very powerful tool and very fast as well. Like was blown away on how fast it exported a video. Okay, so hopefully this video taught you a little something about starting your YouTube. I'm pretty sure it did. So like, comment, subscribe as always. Salute to the flag. It's full of love of tech. And I'm gonna catch you all on the next one. Peace.